Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today we're covering Spare Us. That's right, this is the second part of my recap review, whatever you want to call it, where I'm laughing my you-know-what off and going through Spare Us A Harrody. So in case you missed it, this is part 2. We did part 1 yesterday, and I had Harry reading along with me some of the lines from the book, and he's back today, so I'm very excited to have him. And I can't wait to dive right back into this book. So if you're reading along with me, this is chapter 13 we're picking up on, and we're going to run through like chapter, I think it was 21, something like that. He has not met Megan yet. I'm looking forward to getting to that part, but we're still going through the childhood. And I got to tell you, this book is really funny. I can tell you all day long parts of the book, but you need to pick up the book to see how this guy really mocks Harry. I mean, from the style of writing to the idiotic things he's saying. I mean, as Harry, not the writer, but you know what I'm saying? It's pretty funny, and I really am enjoying it, and I think this guy has knocked it out of the park, so I'm excited to keep going. So, okay, without further ado, let's pick up with chapter 13. So, Harry is a teenager. He's waging war with his memory, apparently. He says he took any method that came to his hands to obliterate his painful thoughts. So, Harry, why don't you tell us what you took?
Cannabis, Smirnoff Ice, rugby. I threw myself into them all, or threw them into me.
Oh, then, thank you, Harry. But but no, in case you couldn't tell the line, he said cannabis, Smirnoff Ice, rugby. I threw myself into them all, or threw them into me. But then goes on to tell a story of running through these fields and a farm. And it turns out Harry was mixed up, and he started explaining a scene from Lord of the Rings, and goes on to say he's confused actual memories with films of the era. Then we go on to chapter 14. He is with his nanny, Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, and so silly. So he's in a, see, I got myself laughing by saying Tiggy Winkle, but he's in a hunting trip in the Highlands. He takes out his first prey. Again, some of I explained it before. These chapters are very short because that's how Spare was. Sometimes just a couple of sentences. So you get these little drips of information and then you move on. So we go right into chapter 15 and we get a story of Charles visiting Harry at Eton. It tells a very funny story of Charles getting confused. So, Harry, why don't you tell us that story?
My father stopped in to see me at school one afternoon. He had been paying a royal visit to the hospital down the road, where he had come face to face with a prisoner who firmly believed himself to be the Prince of Wales. Now, my father said, wagging his finger at the fellow, I won't have this. I'm the real prince, you know. Fuck off, you posh dick nozzle, came the response. It turned out he'd been admonishing a workman who was there to re-shingle the kitchen block roof rather than the intended patient.
So, I'm tripping over the words dick nozzle. I love that. Second of all, I don't know why Jay felt the need to turn Charles into a Batman villain, but I kind of love the choice there. Oh, excuse me. I mean, Harry. I don't know why Harry did that. Anyway, but you get the idea. See, it's another example of a silly story in this book. So apparently Harry tells a story of where Charles got confused, whereas throughout most of the book, we see how confused Harry remains. So then we go into chapter 16, the story of, it's not really the story of, it's more of, he lets us know in this time frame, Charles and Camilla were getting together and planning to wed. Harry goes into the stories of Camilla leaking stories, and it's pretty funny. So we're going to have Harry tell us about how Camilla leaks things. And I'm saying it like that because it was in a book where Harry was leaking everything that he reveals his story. Here we go.
It became clear that she was leaking stories to the press to make herself look good and to place Willie and me at a disadvantage in order to secure her future within the royal family and, in due course, gain queenhood. Willie and I were dismayed to realize that in reality, Pa had swapped one leaky life companion for another.
So again, it's funny callbacks to Spare, where Harry accuses Camilla of exactly this. The part that made me really laugh is the writer of this book ends up having Harry call Camilla a, quote, golden colander. Again, pointing out the idea that Harry just has no self-awareness, that in a book, a tell-all book, he's calling out Camilla for allegedly leaking things. Chapter 17 revisits the hunting in the Highlands. It is a play on a story that Harry told about his hunting, and I won't go too deep into it in case some people are averse, but it involves, in Harry's tale, it involved smearing substance from the hunt on his face. This book takes it way further and involves wearing parts of the things that they had taken out as hats and shoes and things. So, again, taking jabs at the idiot's bear here. Chapter 18 was one of my personal favorites. I kept laughing through this one because it goes out of its way to explain, again, how stupid Harry is, as we've all learned by this point. But he was discussing his plans as to whether or not to go to university and whether it was for him. And he says that his tutor at Eton agreed that university was not for him. He says, "You're not a bookish lad, and that's fine." And Harry answers, "Gosh, no, there's nowhere I'd less rather be than a rotten old library. Books put me to sleep. I mean, like total Yawnsville." That's exactly how it was written. And again, this author, I got to give him huge credit because that's hilarious. He goes on to say, "Nevertheless, as a royal, there's a good chance that one day you'll be requested to write a book on some subject or other close to your heart," is what his tutor said. And then goes on to say, "When the time comes, try not to pick one," talking about ghostwriters. "Try not to pick a ghostwriter who overwrites like a bloody ponce and makes it perfectly obvious that you haven't written a word of the book, just so he can advertise his own sorry arse for future work." So again, taking hilarious shots at the fact that Harry did not write his book. Clearly it was a ghostwriter. I feel like it was a missed opportunity where he could have taken a shot at Meghan. Don't have your stupid wife write it for you. Chapter 19 is very short, just a couple of sentences, but very funny. Let me just read it to you because it's literally only a couple sentences and I can't do it justice. So here you go. It literally says, "I got a call from someone in the palace. There's a story about to break, they said. Are you taking," I can't say the word on YouTube, but a white powdery substance. "Harry, is it true?" And Harry answers, "My God, really? You would ask me that, really?" And the courtier says, "You mean it's not true?" And Harry says, "I'm completely revolted by the insinuation. The very thought, how do these abhorrent scandalmongers get away with peddling this rubbish?" And the courtier says, "Okay, I'll deny it. It's fine." And Harry thanked him. And the author writes, "I was," sorry, I'm cracking up. It says, "I was utterly dejected at my treatment by the press. In fact, so much so that I decided a little line was in order, just to take the edge off." So again, I find it so funny because this guy nails how funny it is that Harry is doing these things, admits to doing these things, but then when called out by anybody else, especially the press, he's going to deny it and then continue to do these things. So then we go into chapter 20. It was a royal trip to South Africa. He went with Pa. He got to meet the Spice Girls. And so in Harry's book, he reads verbatim some of the lines from a Spice Girls song. So this author takes the opportunity to say that the Spice Girls sang "Spice Up Your Life," but I did not want to spice up my life. So again, Harry finds himself being the victim somehow, and the author perfectly plays into that. There's something really funny that happens in this chapter that I can't even explain except for to tell you, at the end of the chapter, the author does such a good job of making Harry, just seem like the idiot he is, and purposely makes him do some typos and then writes a letter or a note to Harry pretending to be the editor. It's truly funny. And again, it's little details like this that make me really enjoy this book. And then we get into chapter 1, and Harry is completely horrified. Why, you ask? Because he found out my mother's former butler had published a sensational tell-all. I can't do the accent justice like Jay does, but he found out his mother's former butler had published a sensational tell-all memoir giving the inside story of his side of events and allowing prying eyes to set foot. Oh my goodness, you guys. Harry, what do you have to say about this?
It was disgusting. That a trusted personage at the heart of the family could go outside and sell all the tawdry details at his disposal to the highest bidder, and then go on talk shows around the world to brag about it. None of us could countenance the betrayal. It was unconscionable. It was hypocrisy of the very highest order. We were all so angry we wanted to have the man hanged, drawn, and quartered, or halved at the very least.
So, again, I know you can pick up on what's going on here, but just in case, he's just mad that somebody had the audacity to write a sensational tell-all memoir and that only he got to publish his side of events. And of course, Harry would be freaking out about this because he doesn't understand that he's completely hypocritical, because that's exactly what Spare was. So I love it so much. And so I'm going to end here because it's just such a funny chapter to leave off on. And I cannot wait to keep going with this book. I'm dying to get into the part where he meets Megan. I'm dying to see how this author handles that. He's so brilliantly shown us what an idiot Harry is that we know, and playing up on that. I'm dying to see how he handles the Megan of it all. I can't wait to get into that. Guys, thank you so much for watching and for being here. A thank you to Jay for providing the horse, good Lord, the voice. I looked up and saw Harry and got confused. The voice of Harry, not the horse of Harry. The voice of Harry. Thank you, Jay. He is Dr. Bad Vibes. He plays nerdy video games if you're into that sort of thing, which apparently I am because I married him. But thank you, Jay, for the voice. And thank you guys for being here and supporting. If you want to further support the show, I do encourage you to check out my Patreon. I do a lot of extra content over there, deep dives, lots of fun stuff. I even cover episodes of Sex and the City if that's your jam, but a lot of Harry and Meghan stuff. So check that out. It's patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. That's where you can become an executive producer. I'd like to thank my executive producers so much for all the support. So I'm going to read your names, and if you want to become one, check it out on patreon.com. All right, a huge thank you to Linda. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you to Mary. Thank you to Amy. Thank you, Mr. K. Thank you, Kay. Thank you to Shauna and to Brenda. Thank you, Aaron and Frank. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Ann M. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Ann H. Thank you, Karen. Thank you to Corey. Thank you to Glennis. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dewey. Thank you to Patty. Thank you to Adair Becker. Thank you to Erica. Thank you, Amber. Thank you to Annette, to Barb G. Thank you, Diana LOL. Thank you, Allison B. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, KT. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, Stromboli. Thank you to Catherine. Thank you to Loie. Thank you to Lucy H. Thank you to Georgia. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Robin's Landing. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Mara. Thank you, Ashley C. Thank you, Molly. Thank you to Amber. Thank you to Ashley. Thank you to Amanda. Thank you to Michelle. Thank you, Sansquid. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you to Dee Dee. Thank you to Nina. Thank you to Heather. And thank you to Tracy. So if you would like your name shouted out and as an executive producer, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Can't wait to bring you the next part of Spare Us. Take care. Bye-bye.